Okay, so I'm gonna make this video short. Enjoy the jellyfish floating around in the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So cat TV's on. So I usually take pretty long stretches between videos. Sometimes I'll like do 3 or 4 at the same time or in a row, and then I'll not come back on for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then I'm on for a full week, and then I'm gone for a month. There's no like real rhyme or reason. It's just usually when I feel inspired or something happens and I need to talk about it. If you've been on my channel for any amount of time, like all about like the Keanu Cave Christmas debacle. It was just a joke. I was drunk at Christmas, literally on Christmas, like Christmas Eve and Christmas. And I was talking about how I used to like Keanu Reeves movies and how like I feel like his public persona is fake now. And like everybody's talking about him being the nicest guy in Hollywood and all this, and I just don't buy it, you know, because like a nice person in Hollywood is kind of like an oxymoron. It's a unicorn. It doesn't exist. So and if you've ever really paid attention in his interviews, he comes off quite sarcastic to me. So you have to remember, I spent a long time, I've worked in call centers for over 22 years. So I definitely know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. And once you start getting into the upper echelons of that career field, it is a career field if you want to make it that. And like any career, there's like the low end of the totem pole and the high end. I work on the high end. So, yeah, I don't do telemarketing and things like that. It's usually inbound calling. And that means the customer or the client or whoever calls me. And that's a whole other ball game. And it's a very professional environment. It's an office environment. Even though it's a professional environment, they're usually more relaxed. It's a lot more casual than like the classic office. But hey, babies, as you can see, we got mayhem always. They were being so good, and now they're all fighting. Okay. Why you guys gotta be so awful to each other? Oh, they were fighting so bad earlier. I had to get the big black kitten boy off of one of the stripe boys, and the stripe boy was crying, like crying. I had to run over there and break it up. You okay? And when I broke it up, the little stripe boy, he was still so upset. He barked at me. So they're fighting pretty bad. It's constant, nonstop. You can't have my Apple Watch. Okay. You want to come say hi? This is my baby. You kind of let the kitten choose you. So this is Sunshine. He's my baby. Yes, he's super cute. Yes, you little baby. So, I love all of them, but he's the one that gravitated towards me. So, yeah. So we get trained in like intensely on listening to our own voice, because we go back and listen to our calls. You listen for your tone. You listen for how you're talking, how fast you're talking, because you have to talk at a certain pace. You can't talk too fast. You can't talk too slow. Because if you're like, "Hi, thank you for calling AT&T. How may I help you?" People do that and don't realize it, and that doesn't cut it. That's jarring for somebody to hear. So I actually talk a little bit faster than I do in my normal life, because I'm trained. I just like switch my brain to something else, and I don't talk anything like I do in my normal. I don't have a fake voice. It's still my voice. It's just a more polished version of my voice. I call it my phone voice, and I talk at a different pace. I talk differently because you're gonna be like, hey yo, what's up? What's up, baby? Like, hey babe, how's your day? How can I help you? You're not gonna talk like that. So, bad babies, they're all bad. So yeah, and listening to his voice, you also listen to the tone of the voice of the customer or whatever, because you're trying to gauge their mood a little bit so you can kind of see how the call is going to go. And I've done extensive training in that for years. So I mean, like, I just naturally read people really well because I've been trained to for years. He reads sarcastic to me. He reads as like humble fake, humble bragging, humble fake. You have to remember, I saw a quote and somebody was trying to glorify him, and they're just like, yeah, this quote from this Keanu Reeves movie where you shouldn't wait for life to be easy, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, what are you talking about? He's had a few tragedies in his life, but who hasn't? A lot of his tragedy is surrounded by, loss of a loved one. Who hasn't had that? And, sorry, and it's not like he like goes on and talks about it much and, tries to garner empathy or sympathy. It's not like, he just naturally gets pity. And it's just like, well, let's say, Putin had a stillborn child, would you feel pity for him and that child? Probably not. So it's just because it's in the context of somebody you think you like. But if you met them in real life, you probably wouldn't like them. So you have to be realistic. There's no such thing as a nice person in Hollywood. That just doesn't exist. It's a unicorn. It's a fairy tale. I think people want to think that because they want to believe it. You want to believe the fairy tale. And yeah, he's not a nice guy, and he spent his entire adult life being mega rich, and he's mega rich because he's still a good looking man, don't get me wrong, but he was crazy hot back in the day. And he's mega rich for being super hot in one-liners in movies, the whoa, that kind of thing. And it's just like, he's not, he gets torn to shreds for his acting ability all the time. What an awful actor he actually is. I mean, he's okay. There's some movies he's better than others, but I mean, anymore, when you see him on the screen, you think, okay, I'm watching Keanu Reeves be Keanu Reeves, play Keanu Reeves in a movie. I mean, you kind of think that. So you don't really think of him as the character very often. And see, certain actors, they could be huge movie stars, but I'll still think of them as that character. And I'm sorry, Daniel Radcliffe and Rupert and Emma, I know you all are amazing actors and you've done amazing work since Harry Potter, but you're always Harry Potter, Ron, and Hermione to me. But that's a testament to how good of actors they were. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. He's not known for his acting, and he's not a nice guy. And I think it's been well established that, the general public is really sick of hearing, overpaid rich people telling us what life is about when you have no idea what it's like to live in the real world anymore. And he hasn't for 30, 40 years now. And well, that's a case for a lot of them. And it's just like, he's worth $1 gazillion. He is, and his girlfriend, she's like all cozied up to Gwyneth Paltrow. And we all know what a joke that is. And, I'm saying he really is a pretentious asshole. So get your head out of the clouds, people. And stop trying to tell us what life's about.